Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute privilege to be joined by the fabulous Peggy Sullivan. Peggy, welcome.
Thank you. Let's talk about how to achieve more by doing less.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited for this conversation because I'm definitely not an addict in recovery. But before we get into that, let me share with our audience a little bit more about you, Peggy. So Peggy is a busyness addict in recovery, a keynote speaker, author, and researcher whose viral TEDx talk with millions of views has inspired audiences worldwide to overcome busyness and achieve peak performance without sacrificing well-being through her signature busy busting framework. Sorry, don't do my teeth in for that one. Trusted by Fortune 500 companies like Google, Bank of America, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, she reveals how packed schedules can reduce productivity and fulfillment. With humor, personal stories, and research-based solutions, Peggy empowers individuals and organizations to shift from hustle to purpose, unlocking greater engagement, resilience, and success. I mean, I love that. We often in society are almost proud of our busyness, aren't we? It's like a badge of honor, and yet it doesn't help us, does it? So could you bring your journey to life for us, please?
Yeah, I think we grow up thinking our hustle society tells us busyness is good. It's a status symbol. I'm important. I can't get in to see the doctor for 6 months, so he must be really good. You know, my next door neighbor leaves work at 7 a.m. and they don't get home till 7 p.m. Isn't that great? But we don't think about the price tag we pay for busyness. I have a really dear friend, Paula, who has a new house, a new dog, a new job, and she doesn't have time for Peggy or girls' night out. And she's been somewhat of a counselor to me because she always helps me see a third alternative and helps me talk through the best strategies. And I miss her. She's too busy for me. I miss her. And it made me realize that time poverty isn't just something that affects us, it affects everybody around us, our employees, our families. And so it's not just about us being busy, but it's about the impact that it leaves on society. And so I'm a firm believer with a little more intention we can get a lot more done and feel more satisfied at the end of the process.
Oh, I love that. I think intentionality is probably my word of the year. It's like when we're just more intentional in what we do, and I used to be dreadful for having the world's longest to-do list. I even put things on it just to tick them off. I mean, it was ridiculous, Becky. But I then realised that actually I wasn't getting the important things done because I'd look at the list and I'd see all the little things that I could do quickly, and so I'd fill my time doing those, and then berate myself for having not done the big things. And did you recognise that as a symptom of somebody who was drowning in busyness at the
Yeah,
time?
I equate busyness like a hamster wheel, and we're running hard and we're working fast, but we just never get to the finish line. And we keep on running hard and working fast, thinking that our day will come and the results will come, but it just doesn't happen. And it becomes very, very habitual. Let's just squeeze everything in. And it kind of makes you feel good at the end of the day. And the reality is, busyness, it's an addiction because of the neurological effects of busyness. When we're busy, we actually get a hit of dopamine. So it tells us, this is good, this is great, do it again and again and again. And that's why busyness is so addictive. And I think that's why when I realized I had one too many wake up calls, and I can share some fun stories about the wake up calls that I had, it made me realize that I needed a process, a framework that I could go to just for me. I didn't develop this for the world. I developed it for me, for my happiness, my productivity, my success. And what happened along the way was it was working. And so more and more people were adopting it, and we were refining the process and getting it better and better until it became the process that it is today. So I know what it's like to be swept up in that cycle. And as individuals, we tend to have wake up calls, but sometimes we don't wake up. For me, it was I came home from work one night, typical day, and I was exhausted. and I was ravenous. So I went to the cupboard and I grabbed the only thing I could find to eat, a bag of pistachio nuts, and I chopped them down. And all of a sudden, my cat starts scratching up my leg and is like, Mommy, feed me. I haven't eaten either. So I throw some kibbles into his dish and I fall asleep on the couch. Nothing extraordinary there. And I wake up and the cat is throwing up pistachio nuts. And I look down and I realize I just ate cat food for dinner. I was on autopilot. I didn't even realize it. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, these nuts are salty. They're stale. I better get to the store and get some new ones. But nothing registered. I just kept on running on that treadmill. And a lot of people have similar effects. So wake up for a little bit, they'll have a health scare, they'll have a little bit of something, but they don't really wake up because they don't know what to do. And that's why, for me, I'm really passionate about the solution because it works and it's actionable and it's easy. And they're just a bunch of easy micro steps we can do one at a time that really add up to intention, purpose, joy, happiness, health, productivity.
Oh, I love that. It's so true, isn't it? You know, I often I love the wake up calls. I always call them the life's plot twists. You know, I'm kind of going along, and all of a sudden there's a plot twist, and you're like, okay, well, we're doing this now. And if we don't listen, we get another one, don't we? It's like, hello, you were supposed to do something different here. And I think we sometimes take a while to properly wake up from those, don't we? So in your book, Beyond Busyness Challenges, you talk about that idea about staying busy equals success. But what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about busyness, and how does your busy busting methodology help people to shift that mindset? Because it is up here that has to change first, isn't it?
Hard work does not equal success. And I'm going to say that again. Just because you work hard and having a great work ethic doesn't mean you're going to be successful. We are successful when we spend our time with intention and purpose, when we spend time on the things that are meaningful and the things that are productive. And so it's really important to think of it like this: a yes or a no decision. Is this important? Is this meaningful? And if you find yourself saying not really, then why are you spending your precious time on it? You know, there are so many things that we can delegate or get assistance with or not spend our time. We make choices. We're not victims here. We get to actively process and choose what we want to do and what we don't want to do. And if you want a sense of today was a great day, I added value today, I got a lot done, it's in the choices you make on a daily basis.
I love that. It's so true. It reminds me of the quote. I love a quote. It reminds me of the quote that says, "I am not the victim of my circumstance. I'm the product of my choices." And it's
Absolutely.
kind of what you're saying, isn't it? Is actually we have to recognize we're the ones in control, even if we don't feel like that. We are the ones in control. We do get to make different choices. If the choices that we're making today don't serve us, we can make better choices. Could you share with us one powerful but simple strategy that listeners could implement immediately that would allow them to start to do more by doing less?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to start out with the concept of subtraction and eliminating low value activities because when we're busy, we can't think about taking on a new process or think about adding one more thing in. We're busy. There's no time, there's no room for it. So I always tell people to begin at looking at your low value activities. What are you doing habitually that just isn't really adding value? You know, are you stuck in the email and social media rabbit hole where you spend all your time doing that when really you could probably look at it twice a day and pick up a lot of extra hours in your day? Are you caught up in meetings day in, day out, and you get to the end of your day saying, oh, time to work. I can't get home. I can't have dinner with my family. I can't work out because now it's time to work. Well, maybe a couple of those meetings weren't high value activities. And maybe there's other people sitting in that meeting room. Here's the statistic: 83% of meetings, we spend 83% of our time in meetings, with only 30% of them productive. So you do the math. That's a lot of time that you can say no. And I always, people always come to me and they say, well, how can I say no? My manager has a meeting, another department has a meeting. I need to support them. How do I say no? And I say, if you really care about that company and you really want that company to get things done and have bottom line results, you need to focus on your task at hand. You need to focus on what it is your job. And when you focus, when you are intentional, then you can really get something done. And there's just a whole bunch of low value things. Interruptions is another one. Multitasking. We think we can get a lot of things done by doing multiple things at once. But the reality, the science says that when we do many things at once, it's riddled with mistakes and it actually takes us 3 times longer. Interruptions cost us what I call a switching task. I developed a tool that I call the Busy Barometer. I was kind of curious about what are the low value activities that really keep us from accomplishing important things. And it turns out that there's 21 of them. And it's not just the way we communicate, not just the way we behave at work, but also the opportunity to indulge in self-care. I mean, let's face it, if you spend 5 minutes doing a refresh, you push the reset button, you're better equipped to go after something with your full self. And so there are so many different low value activities. And when we can identify them and just take one and get rid of it, it really makes a huge difference.
I love that, because we do things, as you said, habitually. So we're not even necessarily consciously doing them. They're just, we've always done it that way. And we do it in organizations as much as we do it as individuals. But it's when you take a moment and step back and be present, isn't it? And go, why am I doing this?
Yeah, I've been coaching somebody by the name of Greg, and he manages a very large department. And he was telling me how he spends his whole day on email, and he manages a lot of people, and he wants them to feel heard. And so he starts email, and then by the time he gets done with his email, 3/4 of his morning is gone. And I said, what if you worked backwards? What if you started your morning doing what was intentional, had purpose? You started interacting with your people, talk to them about what they're doing, give them feedback on how they might be able to be more efficient, more effective. How would that paradigm in your office change? And what would happen if you got people in the practice of not writing an email just to say, I got it, or, there's lunch in the side room, or whatever it is. If you've got something important, put it down, but let's not just, bounce and ping pong back and forth. Well, so he thought about it, he tried it, and he actually ended up saving 4 hours every single week. Can you imagine? What would you do if you had 4 new hours?
It is. I love that. I mean, one of the things that I can't remember whose book I read it in, but I read it and I implemented it, which was block out the first part of your day and don't look at your emails or anything else. Like, focus on the 2 or 3 things that you need to do that day to be successful, and then the rest of the day becomes like, you can fill it with all the other things, and it makes such a big difference. Because before, I would find myself knowing I've got 3 things that needed to be done, but instead giving my time away to everybody else's email or everybody else's request or everybody else's thing that they needed. And then I'd still be working at midnight because I needed to still do my 3 things because I hadn't done them. Whereas doing it the other way, you find that you actually, one, you feel more successful. So you feel like you're actually achieving intentionally. And therefore I find I'm faster at responding to people on their emails because actually I've not got half my brain worrying about the thing that I really should be doing that I'm not doing right now. Does that resonate?
That totally resonates. And you can take that one step further and say, am I about to walk into a meeting where I get value or give value? And if the answer is no, then why are you going to that meeting? I
Yeah.
mean, we've gotten so used to overly communicating, but yet there's no human connection. There's no real meaning and value in the connections we make. They're just all habitual and we're on overload. So, how come we figure out to actually add value, give value, get value? And for me, everything I do goes through that filter. Am I going to give value? Am I going to get value? If the answer is no, then I shouldn't be doing it. There's no reason to be doing it. And I'm not saying that I don't love to go for a walk and feel the sunshine on my face. I do, and that's value and value to me. But you have to really look at things very simply, black and white.
Yeah, I love that. I've been in far too many meetings that I've come out and gone, well, that was a total waste of makeup. And we shouldn't be in that space, should we? We should feel like actually we added, either we added some value or we gained some value. I look at every element of my day and go, am I adding value? That's for me, one of my drivers in life is to add value to things, to to leave them better than I found them. And therefore, if you end up in a place where you're not, it hurts because it's going against your value set. It's not what you are trying to, you're trying to achieve. But I think sometimes we get stuck in being able to make the change from doing something we've always done. So what tips could you share with us for how you make that first? I mean, you've already shared, look at one thing and get rid of it, but how do we have that uncomfortable conversation where we go, I don't want to come to this meeting because I come every Monday and it really is a waste of makeup. I really rather be doing anything else. Clearly that's not how you do it, but how do you start that conversation?
Yeah, our society uses time management as a filter for everything. We spend billions of dollars trying to manage our time, and we have to manage our time, and we do need to plot time block, and we do need to schedule things, and we do need to-do lists, and all of those are useful. But what I like to have people do is get in touch with what their values are. What is most important? At the end of your day, what would make you feel like you accomplished what was most meaningful for you? And it's okay to say, I want a home run at work, or I want to make a difference at work, or I want that sale. That's okay to say that, but own it and do it and focus it and do it with integrity. I got not too long ago very curious about values. I found that I would walk into a room and ask people, how important are your values? And everybody would raise their hand. And so I would say, so what are your top 3 or 4 values? And they'd write 1 or 2 down. And it was usually family, trust, honesty, things like that. And then they'd start to look around the room and see what everybody else was writing, or they pull out their phone and Google it to figure out, what was popular or what else. And so I really started digging deep to understand what values give us quality of life. And what I learned is that there are actually 4 values that make us get to the end of the day feeling like we contributed something and we added value. And those are human connection. And I'm not talking about, internet or email. I'm talking about the type of connection we're doing here. Do you know how much serotonin I'm getting right now just by talking with you and connecting with you? It's lighting me up. I'll be able to focus and enjoy the rest of my day. So human connection is just so important. And so is energy management, self-care. We tend to put self-care on the back burner, but really, if you get a good night's sleep, if you eat your meals, if you exercise, if you take care of yourself, you actually become more energetic, focused, productive, fight off chronic disease. Your brain power increases. It's pretty amazing what happens to your brain power and the direct link to self care. And
Yeah.
then the last two values that I love, and that I found are really important is one is growth. And my dad always used to say, Toots, a day without learning something new is a lost opportunity. And I used to think about that. And the more I leaned into it, the more I realized that when I learned something new, I get this resiliency skill. I learn how to pivot. It fills my toolbox more, and growth and learning becomes something that really helps me get through all the turmoil, all the unexpected stuff that happens in life. And then, last but not least, which I think is one that the world is truly struggling with, is authenticity. And not so much being authentic to what works for you, but realizing that there are lots of different people with different mindsets, different beliefs, different values, different ways of doing things. And why not give somebody else's ideas a try? Because honestly, we're better together.
Yeah, I love that. I'm definitely with you on human connection. You know, I feel my energy go down when I spend too much time just with me, because I love the being able to really connect with people. And I guess for me, one of the greatest gifts in my world is that I get to do something like this and share other people's stories, because I think that's such a great way of connecting as well, and hits on one of the others about growth. My nan used to say to me, every day is a school day. So in every, similar to your every day you should be learning something. And I think that, you know, obviously I've called my show Authentic Achievements, and for me it took me a long time to get comfortable to be authentically me, to embrace my inner weirdo. Actually, your inner weirdo is what makes you shine. I think all of our inner weirdo, and if we let those out, then we learn something new, and collectively we grow, don't we? So I love that actually they're all so interwoven, aren't they? They're also interlinked.
They are, but then how do you use them, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's great to say, okay, now I know my four values. It's connection, energy, growth, and authenticity, and that makes a whole bunch of sense. But then what do you do with that? And to me, it's just as simple as at the end of your day, putting a report card up, just writing those four words and reflecting back on the day. And was there one value that maybe you didn't do as well as you could have? I know for me, once in a while, self care will get thrown to the back burner. And so the next day, I'll make a point of taking my care of myself, sleeping a little bit more, taking a few more breaks, just focusing on me. And life is not as complicated as we tend to think it is. It can be just as simple as keeping a value report card, because if we know those four things keep us feeling like we're living a well-lived life, why wouldn't we do everything in our power to get a piece of them every day?
I love that. It's so true. And as they say, you know, what we focus on gets done. So I think that taking that moment, I have moments that throughout the day, particularly at the end and the start of the day of reflection. So set my intention. What am I going to do? And then at the end, how well did I do on that?
Yeah, I mean, what gets measured gets improved, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's the way of the world. And so it doesn't have to be a complicated Excel spreadsheet. It's just as simple as these are my values. Did I live them? Did I not? What can I do tomorrow to step into them in a more productive, enjoyable way?
oh, I love that, because it really is about being in balance, isn't it? And we often do fall out of balance. But I think it's then just being conscious of it and go, well, okay, so I might have gone a little bit, self-care might have disappeared for a few days, but that's okay, because I get to choose now to spend a bit more time doing that self-care. And today it might mean that I've done more self-care than I've done anything else, but that's okay, because across the week I've balanced myself. And I think for me, that was one of my big learnings, was that actually balance happens in the moment. So in every moment you'll be balanced in a slightly different way, and that's okay. But as long as you keep an eye on them, collectively you remain in balance, because that's one of the things that we're all striving for, isn't it? That the holy grail of work-life balance, and what does that even mean? But actually, once we connect with our values and we look at Are we filling up each cup, or have we?
Yeah, and that's why, for me, work-life balance, sometimes life pulls at you and, somebody's sick or somebody needs you, and all of a sudden your personal life becomes overbearing. Or maybe you're working on a big project at work. And so we need to know that we ebb and we flow, but just because I'm at work doesn't mean I can't have human connection, doesn't mean I can't have growth, doesn't mean I can't be authentic. And so I think we've got to stop thinking that we can draw a line between work and life, and that there is this balance. Because in my experience, it doesn't work that way. Life is messy. It's just messy, and so value management is a way of staying in control.
I love that. It kind of gives you a simple way of kind of um, finding your way through the messy reality that is life, doesn't it? I can't believe where the time's gone. It's just literally flying by. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I've got so many things to ask you. You've already shared such amazing insight. Could you share with us, if you had to go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I would redefine success a little bit different. I think when we're younger, we're interested in getting things done, accomplishments, money, success, titles, all those things. And those things really don't equate to success. To me, success is celebrating the small little things, creating little happiness rituals that make sense and things that you can control. And that's a well-lived day, is when you do things that you set yourself up to do, you positioned yourself to do, and you check them off the list, and you're like, yeah, it was a great day. I chose that and I got that done, and life is good. So for me, it would be, it's not about the destination, but it's really about being present and being in the moment, making every moment count.
I love that. That reminds me of so I said my nan's piece of advice, my granddad's piece of advice was live each day as if it's your last, and one day you'll be right. But I think what he meant was just be present, be intentional, like and realize that actually it's not the destination, it's the journey. And if you get present and enjoy the journey, then actually there's so many more things to be grateful for. There's so many more things that come in that hit those four values. You connect with more people, you learn from more people, you find different ways to take self-care, and you find the confidence to be your authentic self, don't you? But you only do that if you get present with people.
Right. And you can't do it all. I've been on this virtual coffee kick where I've been meeting new and different people. I do it a couple of times a year because I just grow and learn so much from it. And when I'm in the midst of it and I have back-to-back virtual coffees, I'm like, I got to respond to that person today. I got to get back to them. That's just my work ethic. And then I think to myself, no, I don't. Just keep track. You get back to them this week when you have a moment to do it in a right way. And so, sometimes we beat ourselves up. We set ourselves up for these standards on what we think should be, and we end up self-sabotaging.
Yeah. Oh, that so resonates, Peggy. Before we go, could you share with the audience, please, how people can get in touch with you and who do you help?
Well, I do a lot of coaching, workshops, and keynote speeches. I'm happy to help anybody in every way. Hey, I spent most of my life as a busyness addict. My passion is helping people find productivity and joy, and however that resonates and however that lands with other people, I'm here to help. So you can go find me on LinkedIn. Peggy Sullivan Speaker. You can go to my website, peggysullivanspeaker.com, and I will respond. I just got a note this morning from somebody who was listening to a podcast last week and wanted to connect and had a couple of questions about something going on in their life. And I'm like, this is great. This is exactly why I'm doing podcasts, to help people.
Oh, I love that, Peggy. And you've certainly given us lots of advice and help today. And I know I'm going to be taking on board some of the great tips that you've shared with us. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey, your stories, and your success steps with us. I've really appreciated the opportunity to connect with you and learn more.
Yeah, and if people leave with one thing, one micro step, one tiny little micro step makes a difference. Eliminate one low value activity, add in one happiness ritual, focus on one value. You don't have to boil the world. Just take micro steps because they do add up.
I love that. That's such great advice, because I think sometimes we think it's got to be a big thing, and it's often the accumulation of little things that actually gives us the biggest impact. So thank you again for being with us. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today's show to be as insightful, inspiring, and intention making as I have. And until next time, take care.